What is up, guys? DS3TV here. We are here for another video. This one is another entry into the Ottoman Empire Part 7, and this was the next video in their playlist for the Ottoman battles. Yeah, so we're watching video by Kings and Generals today. Battle of Vaslui and Valea, Alba. So two different battles, two different years, one right after another, for 1475 and 1476. And also subscribe to the channel. Want to get 1,000 subscribers by Valentine's Day. Also, recommend me videos in the comment section that I can watch, so I could react to some videos that you guys really want me to watch. And yeah, let's get into the video and play.
The Ottoman expansion into Europe was generally successful, yet every state they attacked managed to resist, and this resistance gave Lazar, Skanderbeg, Hunyadi, Vlad Tepes and others the status of legends. In this episode we will cover the resistance of another legendary historical figure, the Prince of Moldavia, Stefan III, the battles of Vaslui and Valea Alba, and how they shaped the region for many years to come. We left our series on Ottoman history on the Battle of Otluk-Bely, during which the Ottoman Sultan Mehmet II fought against Uzun Hasan, the leader of the new Turkic power, the Akkunyulu. But to tell this story, we will need to go back a few decades to the Princedom of Moldavia. In 1451, the Prince of Moldavia, Bogdan II, was murdered by his brother Peter, who took the title. The new prince secured the realm by becoming vassal to the Polish king Casimir IV. He also started to pay tribute to the Ottomans in 1456. However, the son of Bogdan, Stefan, was supported by the leader of the Hungarian armies, John Hunyadi, and the then Prince of Wallachia, Vlad III. In 1457, Stefan received troops from Vlad and entered Moldavia, defeating Peter at Orbig. He became the prince as Stefan III. The new ruler continued to pay tribute to the Ottomans and used the respite to reform the princedom. The power of the aristocracy was curbed, and the serfs became free tenants, which allowed them to join the army. The military was improved and strengthened with artillery units, and new fortresses were built along the borders. Stefan gained the city of Kotin from Poland, either through diplomacy or military action, and as his opponent Peter was in exile in Transylvania, he attacked this region, which was under Hungarian protection. His old ally, Vlad III, lost his title to the Ottoman satellite Radu in 1462. Stefan used that to take the strategic city of Kilia in 1465, and that gave him control over the Danube Delta. In 1466, Stefan supported the anti-Hungarian rebellion in Transylvania. In late 1467, the King of Hungary, Matthias I, dealt with the uprising in Transylvania and moved into Moldavia with an army that had between 20 and 40,000 troops and a few hundred cannons. At a place called Baia, Stefan and his 15,000-strong army managed to defeat the Hungarians, killing more than 10,000 and wounding Matthias. The Moldavian prince invaded Transylvania on a few occasions over the next few years, but also was forced to defend his lands. In the summer of 1470, he soundly defeated the Golden Horde at Lipnik in the battle that marked one of the last occasions the Horde went on an offensive. Later that year, his rival Peter invaded Moldavia, but was defeated at Targu and then executed. Another invasion from Wallachia was stopped at Sochi in 1471. It was around this time the relationship between Mehmet II and Stefan began to weaken. In 1471, the Ottomans demanded Kilia return to Wallachian control. Stefan refused, and in 1472 started plotting with Uzun Hasan against the Ottomans. The next year, Stefan used the Ottoman-Akkinyulu War to his advantage. He stopped paying tribute, attacked Wallachia, defeated Radu at Remniku Sarat, and installed Basarab III Leota to the throne. Back east, the Ottomans defeated the Akkinyulu at the Battle of Otluk Beli in 1473, and as his eastern borders were now secured, Sultan Mehmet turned his gaze to Europe. By the end of the year, Radu was restored. In 1474, Leota regained the title, supported by Stefan. The Ottoman Sultan couldn't tolerate this anymore. Mehmet sent an ultimatum. Stefan had to pay tribute, return Kilia, and cease his attacks on Wallachia. As the prince declined, the Sultan assigned the governor of Rumelia, Hadim Suleiman Pasha, who was busy with the siege of Venetian-controlled Skoda, to end his campaign and move his troops against Moldavia. Suleiman followed the order and reached Sofia in September of 1474. The number of troops the Ottomans had is highly contested, with the numbers ranging from 50,000 to 120,000. We know that up to 20,000 Bulgarians joined Suleiman Pasha in Sofia, but it is not clear if these were troops or engineers as stated in the Ottoman sources. We also know that Leota switched sides and joined the Ottomans with up to 15,000 Wallachians.
So he was a traitor, a Benedict Arnold.
Meanwhile, Stefan knew that his refusal to accept the ultimatum would provoke an attack, so he asked Hungary, Poland, and the Pope for help. His standing army of 10,000 was reinforced by thousands of Moldavian peasant recruits, 2,000 Poles, 2,000 Hungarians, and 5,000 Sekes, for a total of between 30 and 40,000. He also had 20 cannons and a small unit of handgunners. Suleiman crossed the Danube in November of 1474, and although the campaigning season was over, he gave his troops 2 weeks of rest and then continued his march towards Moldavia, reinforced by Leota around Bucharest. In December, the Ottomans entered Moldavia, yet Stefan was prepared and used a scorched earth tactic against them. The villages were burned, the wells were poisoned, and the population was moved to create supply problems for the Ottoman army. This was a war of attrition, and Stefan, who was used to fighting superior opponents, had mastered it, continually harassing the Ottomans with his hit-and-run tactics. The hungry and exhausted Ottoman army moved to the north for a month. On January 10, 1475, the Ottoman scouts reported intact villages south of Vaslui in a valley where the Barlad River runs. With heavy fog and rain accompanied with frigid temperatures, Suleiman decided that he could rest his troops south of Vaslui while waiting for the entire Moldavian army to show up. However, as the Ottoman troops started passing to the other side of the river, over the only bridge in the area, Moldavian battle drums were heard to the north. Convinced the whole Moldavian army was ahead, Suleiman rushed his troops forward in a dense fog and ordered the army to form up on the western side of the river. As the drum roll continued, more Ottoman soldiers crossed the river and moved through the mud to the north, forming up along the way. The valley the Ottomans entered was narrow and not suitable for their cavalry charges. Meanwhile, the front lines of the Ottomans finally entered into contact with the Moldavians. Stefan's light cavalry attacked the flanks of the Ottoman column, luring it into the valley. Stefan placed his best troops, Moldavian professionals and Seke units here, and they also slowly retreated. The Ottomans were ordered to advance, yet they were surprised when the Moldavians stopped at a designated location. At that moment, Stefan's hidden artillery units, archers and...
I was about to say, they were being tricked. They were being lured into a really big trap.
Were ordered to start shooting at the Ottoman units. Suleiman, who was at the rear of his army, was unable to assess the situation on the front lines and tried to rush his remaining forces across the river. This, along with consistent Moldavian cannon fire, caused the wooden bridge to collapse, slowing the Ottoman reinforcements. The less loyal Wallachians did not cross the river in support of Suleiman. Meanwhile, the Moldavian infantry started a slow retreat yet again, and Stefan had sent his light cavalry to provoke the Ottoman cavalry to move up the valley where he was about to spring his trap. The Sipahis were successful in pushing the left wing of the Sekeyers and the Moldavian professionals. However, this lured them in even more. Suddenly, the Moldavian war drums were heard from the forest to the left of the Ottoman line. Completely exposed, Ottoman commanders panicked, and Suleiman, never fully aware of the tactical situation, tried to form a secondary line to defend against the threat on his left side. The main Moldavian attack was planned on the Ottoman right, and the heavy boyar cavalry of Stefan, which was hidden behind a hill until now, charged into the rear and side of the Ottoman army. Despite still outnumbering their opponents, the Ottomans thought that they were surrounded from three sides and panicked. They tried to retreat only to be run down by the Moldavian cavalry. This retreat went on for 3 days, and Stefan's troops continuously harassed the Ottomans. Contemporary sources indicate Stefan lost 4,500, whereas Suleiman's casualties were around 45,000. Many Ottoman leaders were taken captive and then executed. The Moldavian victory was the biggest the Ottomans suffered against the Christian forces until now, only overshadowed by the crushing defeat at Ankara, while Stefan gained the prestigious Athleta Christi, the Champion of Christ title from the Pope. However, Stefan knew that he would have to face the Ottomans again, and even this did not force his neighbours to mobilize to his defense. Mehmet, realizing that he had to get the job done himself, moved into Moldavia with more than 100,000 men in the summer of 1476. His allies from the Crimean Khanate attacked from the east and invaded Bessarabia. Mehmet captured the crucial fortress of Akerman on the Black Sea coast, thus accomplishing one of the critical objectives of the campaign. Stefan realized that facing the Ottoman army in an open field would result in disaster, and opted for his previous tactics: attrition warfare and a scorched earth policy. Mehmet did not repeat the mistakes of Suleiman, and marched slowly, ensuring the safety of his supply lines. Eventually, Stefan's 30,000-strong army had to face the massive forces of Mehmet in Valea Alba on July 26, 1476. We have limited knowledge of this engagement, yet we know that the Moldavians used fire and the heat of summer to hinder the Ottoman advance. The forest where Moldavian forces expected the foe was set on fire, and the Ottoman forces suffered casualties. Moldavian cannons and handgunners inflicted even more damage. However, the Ottomans outnumbered the Moldavians, and due to their sheer numbers, the makeshift barricades built by the Moldavians were soon overrun. Stefan, realizing this would be a pivotal moment in the battle, unleashed his 4,000-strong cavalry upon the Sultan's forces. Unfortunately for him, these units were pushed back, while Mehmet ordered his horsemen to make an assault, and it was more successful. This success was short-lived, however, since Stefan had 1,000 horsemen hidden in the forest, and they attacked the Ottoman cavalry. Realizing that the battle could only be won through his involvement and losing troops in this back-and-forth combat, Mehmet II used his guard to rally his forces and crushed the defending Moldavians. The Janissaries hunted down Moldavian troops in the dense forest, while the flanking reinforcements prevented fleeing forces from starting an all-out retreat. At the end of the day, the forest was full of dead bodies, and this defeat became a dark page in the history of Romania and Moldavia. Casualties from both sides added up to nearly 30,000 men, according to contemporary sources. Yet, even such a victory did not ensure the conquest of Moldavia for the Ottomans. Stefan retreated towards the Polish border, recruiting a new army, while the Ottomans had failed to take the fortresses of Suceava and Namts. They started to suffer from starvation and an outbreak of the plague, and were also harassed by local resistance. And as the Voivoda of Transylvania, Stefan V, began forming a new army in the area, assisted by Vlad III, Mehmet decided to retreat from Moldavia in August. By that time, both sides were exhausted, and although Stefan and Mehmet fought over Wallachia for some time, eventually the Moldavian prince agreed to peace and started paying annual tribute again. This was not the end of independent Moldavia, and the Ottoman campaigns in the region were not halted. Our series on the Ottomans will continue, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the alarm bell to learn more about the decisive battles of history. These videos are made...
So yeah, that was a good video. Ottoman Empire Part 7. And yeah, talk to you guys in the next video. Also, subscribe to the channel. I want to get 1,000 subscribers by Valentine's Day. Also, put in the comment section what you want me to react to, and I will react to it. So yeah, talk to you guys in the next video, and peace.